Horizon Special investigates the science behind medal success and how the British Olympic Association are gearing up for London 2012.
What I'm thinking when I climb up to the board is just, am I going to land flat or am I going to nail it?
11-year-old Thomas Daly is probably the best diver Britain has ever produced.
My favourite board is the 10-metre platform. You get so excited when you're up there.
Thomas is in training for a very big event.
Trafalgar Square, under the gaze of Lord Nelson, thousands waited in hope for news of another famous victory.
The Games of the 30th Olympiad in 2012 are awarded.
You go up to the edge of the board and you visualise it in your head. You think through the dive, you think through the motions. You lower your arms and you go.
Are awarded to the city of London.
In just 6 years' time, the world's finest athletes will converge on London in search of Olympic gold.
My biggest dream would be to get a gold in the 2012 Olympics in front of the whole home crowd in London.
But being a modern Olympian is no longer simply about being the best. Britain's young hopefuls will have to be winners in the science and technology arms race to stand any chance of winning gold in 2012. The Olympic Games, the biggest sporting stage of all, the pinnacle of any athlete's career, and the chance to win a gold medal.
The women's 800-metre final. Kelly goes in lane 3. A huge roar goes up. It could be a race to get to the front.
The hardest part of the whole race really was probably the last 80 metres.
Kelly Holmes attacking on the outside.
I've always been beaten in that position.
Kelly Holmes fighting for the gold medal.
I just remember about the last 10 metres of the race saying to myself, relax.
Can she get there? Come on, Kelly! One more yard! Come on, Kelly Holmes!
And that's when I took one step forward and crossed the line.
It's gold! Kelly's won the gold for Great Britain!
And everyone saw my face. I was as shocked as anything, you know, eyes bulging out my head. I'm standing there like with my arms out and my mouth open, thinking, did I?
Yes, you've won! The gold medal! Kelly Holmes is the Olympic champion.
I mean, it was just pure elation. 20 years of wanting to be Olympic champion.
Winning by a hair's breadth and in true British underdog fashion made Holmes a national icon. But there was just one problem. At the Athens Olympics in 2004, Dame Kelly was one of only 2 Britons to win any individual athletics medals at all, let alone gold. Now, with the London Games looming, the issue facing British sport is how to create more Kellys, as many as possible, to help with their ambition of substantially increasing Britain's medal haul in London 2012.
We have a tradition of a kind of a plucky amateur performer who pops out of nowhere every 4 years in Olympic Games and wins, apparently with limited or no preparation or support. It's a myth. The honest reality of elite sport is it takes many years of very hard work from a committed few to succeed, and it equally takes, in 21st century sport, a tremendous investment in support services, particularly in medicine, in science and coaching, to enable athletes to succeed.
And that success will depend on transforming hundreds of talented teenagers into Olympians by 2012.
I want to be an Olympian because it's everyone's dream.
Especially these ones in London now in 2012.
It is the top of any sporting achievement.
My goal is just to get a gold medal at the Olympics.
We're 7 years away and people are already touting us to be Olympic medalists.
It's the top of the game and I want to be the top and I want to be the best.
The British Olympic Association wants her to be the best too, because their ambition is for Britain to jump from 10th to 5th in the Olympic Medal League. It's a tall order for a small nation, because in Olympic sport, big is beautiful. History has shown again and again that the bigger your population, the bigger your team, and the bigger your team, the more medals you win. It's for this reason that the land of the free and the home of 250 million people generally cleans up in international competition.
So, America come home in front. America wins. America there.
By the mid-1970s, Team USA was the all-conquering star of track, field and pool. The secret of their success was simple. Training. Training, training and more training, until anyone with any form of weakness was eradicated.
We were doing between 20 and 25,000 meters a week. We usually did that in 12 different sessions, 2 a day, 6 days a week, and if you missed any during the week, you had to make them up on Sundays.
Lane 5, Shirley Babashoff.
In 1976, one of the brightest stars of the American swim team was Shirley Babashoff, a dead cert for Olympic glory.
She makes as many as 14 practices a week, and she trains against the boys. She competes against the boys in practice.
I was working out 6 hours a day, 7 days a week. My birthday, Christmas, 4th of July, every holiday. I didn't have a day off for 4 years, straight.
When Shirley Babashoff won the silver medal in Munich, she was only 5 feet 3 inches. Now, 4 years older and 8 inches taller, she has a good chance to earn a gold medal at Montreal.
But nothing could have prepared Shirley for what happened next.
The greatest female swimmer, I'm sure now the world has ever known. Finishing off the world. They couldn't touch her.
In the 1976 Olympics in Montreal, the American dream became a nightmare.
And it's a new world record for the East German. Babashoff gets the silver medal.
But the big East German's looking strong.
There's the first girl home. New Olympic record.
Complete German domination. A new world record.
The mighty America was battered into oblivion by a nation boasting just 8% of its population.
There she is, beating the golden girl of American swimming, Shirley Babashoff.
Shirley Babashoff found herself in the novel position of being beaten regularly.
Has no opposition. She's now got about 50 meters.
By a long way.
The world record is 4 minutes 13.41. No doubt about it. There it goes. The world record is gone. Who's going to be second? It's going to be the United States with Shirley Babashoff.
Of the 13 gold medals on offer for women's swimming, the East Germans took 11, smashing 8 world records along the way.
The world record is 179.78. She has done it, a new world record.
By the end of the Games, the East Germans had scooped up a staggering haul of 40 gold medals, 6 more than the Americans.
Gold goes to East Germany.
The East German success wasn't down to luck, pluck, or even punishing training regimes. The East Germans knew they couldn't play the numbers game like the Americans. Yet long before Montreal, Communist East Germany had set its sights on climbing the Olympic medals table. To achieve their dream, they devised one of the most infamous sports training systems in history.
Every child in East Germany was tested. This was the system to screen for the entire population for people who are strong and to put them into the sport.
The East Germans concentrated on swimming and athletics, and having scoured the country for children most likely to succeed, sent them to specialist training centres, where an army of coaches, doctors and sports scientists set about systematically transforming them into Olympians. Although no one was quite sure how they'd done it, by 1976 the East Germans seemed to have spectacularly proved that the numbers game could be beaten by science. While Britain proudly carried home its 3 gold medals, another country, devastated to have won none at all, resolved to do something about it. This is the AIS, the Australian Institute of Sport. After Montreal, the Australians took a close look at what little they knew about what the East Germans had done and decided to copy them.
Australia came home without a gold medal for the first time ever. I think at that time we won 1 silver and 4 bronze. And the silver was when New Zealand beat us in the men's hockey.
There, he's done it for New Zealand.
Which was just, you know, a fate worse than death.
And that's it, the hooter goes, and New Zealand have beaten Australia.
That was the trigger to getting the Institute founded and operating in 1981.
The AIS was modeled after the East German system. It was kind of the first Western world approach at bringing a lot of scientists together and doctors together and let them focus as a community of knowledgeable professionals, focus on making athletes better.
This huge sports complex on the outskirts of Canberra was built for just one purpose: to win more Olympic medals.
The main drivers about the AIS is that we're here to win. Getting your personal best and trying your hardest is fantastic, and you'll never knock an athlete for doing that. But you're here to win. I mean, getting on the Olympic team is fantastic, and getting your green and gold tracksuit is fantastic. But you're here to win. No athlete comes in here without fully understanding and being absolutely committed to winning, winning and winning. That's what it's all about.
Like East Germany, Australia had a small population. So like the East Germans, the Australians too decided to focus their efforts on selected sports. They then set about adapting the East German selection process to find children to feed into their new system.
The former East Germany in particular had quite sophisticated talent identification programs right through the 50s, 60s and 70s. Rather than reinvent the wheel here in Australia, we looked at what were the favourable features of their programs that we could adopt in our country. What you do in this test here is you have to plot.
Like East Germany, Australia scientifically determined the optimum physical attributes athletes needed for their key sports and set about testing every school child they could to find them.
In particular sports, we're looking for height, power, speed, endurance. And then we go out and essentially find those sorts of traits that we're looking for.
Those who matched the criteria were offered a place at the AIS, where it was hoped that sports science would transform them into Olympians.
We've got a sports science and medicine centre here in Canberra with 110 people, profiling and monitoring and answering coaches' questions and turning it back into better coaching practice and better athlete performance.
Bringing their best scientific brains under one roof, the Australians invested heavily in new research.
I have 30 colleagues within this lab. I have close to 200 to 300 colleagues within this whole center. And so I feel like I'm part of a critical mass of scientists trying to help sport and trying to help athletes go faster.
But the winner, no doubt about it, Grant Hackett of Australia.
Goal for Freeman. She is the Olympic champion.
At the Sydney Olympics in 2000, Australia's version of the East German system delivered.
Gold for Australia. Once again, it will be Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
It is an Australian goal. 2 gold.
The Honeyroos have won gold again.
In all, Australia claimed a staggering 58 medals. They'd leapt from number 32 in Montreal to number 4 in Sydney.
It's a new world record. I cannot believe that Thorpe's done that. Crown him the King of Australia.
It had taken them more than 20 years, but it was a phenomenal achievement for a country of just 20 million people. Now, Great Britain is hoping for an equally impressive jump in performance for the London Games in just 6 years' time. But unlike Australia, the UK's talent programme does not currently measure school children. Instead, it is reliant on spotting emerging talent.
I started diving when I was 8 years old. I saw people diving and I thought, oh, I'd like to do that. So my dad took me along for Saturday mornings, kept on doing it. And then after about half a year, I got talent spotted and brought up into a squad, and it started coming up from there.
Thomas, and Britain's Olympic dream, is also reliant on Thomas's dad.
My life has had to change completely around diving. I started off once a week. I don't miss any training sessions at all. It's now become a way of life. Once a week gymnastics. I don't look at it as a chore at all. It's something I've got to do for Thomas to achieve his dream.
Even though the British approach doesn't mirror the East German or the Australian model, it must be doing something right. It has, after all, discovered Thomas Daley. And he's good.
He's better than any 11-year-old I think we've ever had in this country, certainly to my knowledge, and I've been doing it for about 20 years now. A lot of the stuff that he does belies his years, if you like. At under 18 level, he's been the British champion now on both the 3-metre springboard and the 10-metre platform. There's some very good divers out there on the Great Britain team, and he's actually beaten all of them, so pretty good so far.
"400 miles away in Bolton, another waterborne Olympic hopeful is also emerging, with a bit of help from her parents.
It's hard for us as well, because she needs a lot of support. Our whole life really tends to revolve around it. Social life, holidays, everything tends to revolve around Rachel's swimming.
This is 16-year-old Paralympian hopeful Rachel Latham.
Probably the first time I really sat down and watched the Olympics was Sydney, and my dad said to me, he goes, I'll take you to the Olympics to watch some sport one day. And then I thought, I don't want to watch it, I want to be in it.
Access to facilities and specialist coaching is going to be crucial in getting Rachel to the elite level.
I train 8 times a week, and I do everything. I do loads of different stuff, practice my dives and my turns, and just do a lot of different things to practice my races.
Rachel's part of British swimming's Olympic Potential Programme.
Alright, so your last set, 450s on 3, on 75.
For the past 5 years, she's been training with her coach, Tony, at the local swimming club.
She's progressed from being a good club athlete who wanted to keep fit and be part of an able-bodied group to being a top athlete in the country now.
But getting Rachel to the Olympic podium will need a lot more than access to her local leisure centre.
Thank you, Bob.
In Australia, swimmers are not simply trained and encouraged. World-beating performance is achieved with the help of science and technology. Athletes like Jade Edmonston's every last movement and muscle contraction are minutely recorded and analysed by scientists bristling with computers and sensors. Jade is the fastest woman in history to swim the 50 metres breaststroke. Coincidence?
Probably just work on this entry a little bit. I think with the fly kick you can get a little bit more out of that. So let's go again and see if we can't knock a couple of tenths off that.
We have a series of computers here and they all feed together to give us a real picture of what the athlete does.
Magnets in the swimmer's cap, sensors on the starting blocks and cameras in the pool mean the technical team can accurately measure the speed and efficiency of a swimmer's every move.
So all the information comes together and it's fed to the coach in a spreadsheet with all the data.
The accurate measurement of an athlete's speed and efficiency is known as biomechanics.
So we've got the lead block time, that's the time she leaves blocks, 0.89 a second. She enters at 1.48, she resurfaces at 6.58.
We come up with these figures, but then we've got to present that to the coach so that the coach can understand the importance of those figures on performance.
It was Bruce's data that gave Jade Edmonston the vital edge in the 2005 World Championships.
What we're able to do is refine her start to a point where we had a custom swimsuit made for her based on the information we got out of the biomechanics session. She was able to go over there and had by far the fastest start in the field and was able to win the gold medal and break the world record in the final. So
30.57, she's got the world record.
No, they're very valuable for us.
And this is Britain's latest contribution to the science of biomechanics. At one end of this fishing line is Britain's Paralympian hopeful Rachel Latham, and at the other is Dr. Carl Payton's velocimeter.
Simple but effective, that's always been my approach. Ready? Off you go. Inside the velocimeter there's a very small lightweight wheel. The speed of rotation of the wheel is directly proportional at any moment in time to the speed of the swimmer. The velocimeter is directly interfaced to the laptop computer, which automatically is logging the speed of the wheel 100 times per second, and the laptop computer displays the speed graph as it's happening. This is available for the coach immediately at the end of the swim.
The fishing line velocity meter is portable, easy to use, and, crucially for British swimming, relatively inexpensive. But is it any good?
The swimmers that win medals are the ones who have the good technique. It's not the ones who are big and strong, it's the ones who have the technique. And it can only help them.
Oh, biomechanics is really helpful because you can just see where you need to work on your technique.
You can see far more of your leg, which means more resistance.
And where you need to do that extra tiny little point, which will just knock off the slightest bit of a second, which will just help you win races.
Winning races is what it's all about. For the first time, Rachel and coach Tony have a real opportunity to see if Dr. Payton's training device has made a difference where it really matters, in the pool at the National Championships.
East Midland, Angela McCallum, Emma Campbell, Descent East Midland, Rachel Latham, and Jojo Cranfield.
3 seconds under the world record, unbelievable.
Oh, I couldn't believe it, and my coach was just really pleased, and it was just putting all that hard work in, just paid off.
It was just another step towards, the ultimate goal of getting the medal at the Olympics, but unbelievable. Yeah, fantastic.
Rachel's exposure to the technological wizardry of the velocimeter has obviously paid dividends. But if the British Olympic Association's goal of jumping from 10th to 5th in the medals table by the London Games stands any chance of becoming reality, many more athletes like Rachel will have to employ the latest innovations in sports science.
When we look at the likes of the potential athletes, they need education around the role of sports science, so that by the time they make it through the elite, they've actually got that grounding, they've got that base knowledge, and we can then start to develop that, looking at the very high level applied sports science work that's going to make a real difference to performance.
The World Championship turn on to the line. Oh, it's so close. It's going to be oh so close.
These days, though, performance is not simply about speed or power.
Matthew drives. Oh, photo finish. Photo finish.
In the last 20 years, that difference between winning an Olympic medal and losing has become smaller and smaller.
What we know in a vast number of sports is that we're actually moving towards the limits of human performance. As we move closer towards those limits, we are stressing the human to their absolute limit.
Oh, couldn't have been any closer, could it?
So how we support our athletes has to be much more focused and much higher quality in order to make the best of a small number.
Using science to make the most of their small number of athletes has been central to Australia's Olympic success. For the Australians, the production of a modern Olympian is all about having better science than everyone else, and they're determined to win the sports technology arms race.
You got little portable lactate analyzers such as this, a little portable pulse oximeter, power meters for rowing. It's instrument bikes, instrument shoes. These units here are made to try to enrich oxygen. Are you a responder or non-responder? Is it time to come out because it's making you worse, or should you stay in because you're getting better? To identify the best way to use this technology is very, very difficult. And that's where we're trying to stay ahead of our competitors.
Dave's latest weapon in the fight for Olympic glory has come from another group of people hell-bent on winning.
The military have developed these little pills. And you just pop it in your mouth, swig back your orange juice, and then within about an hour, that pill is going to be settled down nicely in your stomach. It transmits out a signal that's picked up with this box here, and as they then ride down the road, we can identify how hot they're getting.
The human body performs best within an optimal temperature range. Anything outside of this, and an athlete's performance will start to decline. Being able to monitor an athlete's core body temperature allows the AIS to develop strategies to keep them cool, which is why this man has been cycling for 40 minutes in a 90-degree heat tent.
Swim.
Having heated him up, the cyclist is now plunged into an ice bath to try to reverse the process.
Great. How long am I in here for? 14 minutes.
The idea behind this is to try and cool him down fairly rapidly so that his core temperature starts at a lower point, and by starting at a lower point, hopefully the performance will be improved in the second exercise bout.
How does that feel? It feels really cold, mate, funnily enough. It's freezing.
The ice bath idea is a product of sports medicine that has had huge benefits, not least for one injury-prone competitor at the 2004 Olympics in Athens.
So can Kelly Holmes do it again?
When I used to train before, I'd train, I'd do my session, I'd do my warm down, and I'd kind of go home. Whereas at the Olympic Games, I'd do my session, my priority then was to go into the ice bath. Then I would go back and I'd get my dinner straight away, and I'd watch my diet really well. And it was all those things that helped boost me physically, and that ultimately boosted my confidence.
Here comes Kelly Holmes.
I remember coming up the back straight and I'm like passing the people, and then I'm coming round the top bends again and I'm in a position to strike.
Has she got enough in the home straight? Kelly looking round to see where the danger is. Now she's got to push on. Now she's got to kick for home.
I just thought I have to go for it. And I just remember opening the gap and that feeling of coming towards the line and thinking, God, I've achieved my dream. It's like, oh.
Kelly Holmes going for 2 gold medals. It's going to be an historic second gold. Kelly Holmes for Great Britain wins the 1500-metre title.
Just really unbelievable. I mean, people keep saying to me, can I compare the 8 and 15 and what one's better? There isn't one that's better, because the 800 metres I became Olympic champion and the 1500 I achieved my dream. So, you know, it's just the most amazing moment of my life.
Double Olympic champion Kelly Holmes.
What a great moment for British athletics. What a great moment for Kelly Holmes.
The ice baths worked a treat for Dame Kelly. But these days, the ice bath is old hat, last season's technology. The science of cooling just got cooler and a lot more scientific.
This is a cooling jacket that is filled up with what they call a phase change polymer. Ice melts at 0 degrees Celsius, but the phase change polymers, we can get them to melt at 10 or 15 degrees. We can design cooling strategies before an event based on what we think the needs of the athlete in the event are.
The Australians' continuing commitment to sports science is total. Their current funding of over 100 PhD programs shows they intend to stay on top for many years to come.
We see our competitors, both in the US, Australia are good examples where they've had research programs for over 2 decades. That's because they recognise that the only way forward is to actually lead by example with regard to the types of research programs that are going to glean these improvements in performance. That's where our focus needs to be in order to develop into a truly world-leading nation.
But with no Australian-style central research program yet in place, Britain is years behind its major competitors. And with 2012 fast approaching, Britain is now faced with the challenge of producing Olympians more quickly than any other country in history.
I think first and foremost we need to establish what a basic blueprint is for a winning culture in sport. We have that in some of our leading sports, our best sports in the Olympic arena being sailing, cycling, rowing in particular. One of the big challenges is making certain that blueprint is rolled out in all the sports that we can be successful in.
One area that we are successful in is cycling. British cycling is a major Olympic success story. And it's successful for an oddly familiar reason. These 5 lads live and breathe cycling. They're the future of the sport in the UK. They're the current recruits to cycling's so-called boot camp in Manchester.
At age 18, they come into Manchester, they live in a house, and really the first 3 months or so is all about learning how to live the lifestyle of an elite athlete. It's about discipline, it's about rigour, and then it's a question of upping the level of conditioning and put that whole package together, and it certainly accelerates the performance that they can achieve.
2 more efforts to go, guys. Come on, let's go.
The East Germany model, refined in Australia, has finally come to Great Britain.
I want them to be like super organised, if you like. Basically, that's what I hit them with in this first couple of months. Make sure that they're organised, make sure that they can get themselves up for training, they know what they expect from myself, and training them professionally in that way.
It's been tough moving away from home and stuff. Definitely enjoying the experience and definitely better than the idea of going to university, I think.
It's just like living with your mates, like in uni, except we're riding bikes for a living instead. So.
We haven't got any schoolwork to get in our way, or we've got nothing other than cycling 24/7.
They're doing anywhere between 2 to 5 hours every single day, really, on the bikes. You know, 5 hours if they're averaging 20 mile an hour, 100 miles, quite easy for them to do, really. But we do a lot of this sort of just sort of race style practice, really.
Unlike many UK sports, British cycling knows who its probable Olympic medal contenders are for the London Games in 2012.
I don't think there's any higher achievement in cycling, really.
When you find out it's in London, it's just, you can only imagine what the crowds will be like, and when you're actually there.
Home crowd and that would be like an extra boost, so just really want to get there and
win a medal there.
The boot camp boys are treated to everything an elite athlete needs to succeed. Cutting-edge technology for the bikes, sports medicine, physiotherapy, sports psychology, and even biotechnological analysis of their riding technique.
All they'll have seen before this is like the pros riding it at the Tour de France and the Olympics, and yeah, they see the guys who look really good on the bikes and sit still on the bikes, and they'll think in their heads, that's what I look like, because they dream about it, you know. But in reality, they're perhaps moving all over the place. Come on in, come on, up, up, up! Bit up and down that warm-up.
We look for a 1% improvement in 20 or 25 different areas. That's a really full-on approach. And in order to do it properly, to make it work, you have to work hard at each one of those areas. So you have to do it all or nothing, really, and we go for all.
The selection process, the attitude, and even the enthusiastic uptake of technology is all distinctly Australian. And the cyclists look like they're also adopting the Australian will to win. If the boot camp boys thrive in competition, British cycling will be in great shape for the 2012 Olympics.
They're young, they're 18 years old, they've been thrown in at the deep end, if you like. There's a very thin line between putting too much pressure on them and putting enough pressure on them so they know they've got to perform.
At only 3 months into their training, the raw recruits are put up against some of the greatest names in cycling at the World Indoor Cycling Championships in Manchester. Even at this very early stage, the systematic approach is paying off. Great Britain's embryonic cycling team is showing its potential.
And they're all together, coming back to the line. What are they going to stop the clock at? They're looking for it. Good riding, 4:13.694. Exactly the schedule that the coach Rod Illingworth was asking for, and they are the quickest of the competition at this stage.
Thanks to the ideas pioneered in East Germany, small nations like Australia and now maybe even Great Britain have the potential to exploit their meagre talent bases and succeed on the world stage. But the East German legacy was tragically twofold.
We were in the locker room changing to go out to swim and warm up in the pool, and we heard these voices speaking German, and we just screamed because we're telling each other this can't be a co-ed locker room. We went to see what the sound was coming from, and it was the East German women. You were swimming against men.
One of the girls was sitting on the deck, was saying something like, "Helga, Helga, throw me my goggles." I just remember listening to that voice come out of that woman's body, and I thought, oh my gosh.
When the Berlin Wall came down, what had long been suspected but never proved was finally confirmed. The endemic use of performance-enhancing drugs was the other reason that the East Germans had been so successful.
Becoming quite a habit for Shelley Babasov. Silver medal, 200 freestyle, 400.
There people come up to you and they say, "Oh, you were in the Olympics, and how did you do?" And I say, "Well, I have 2 golds and 6 silvers." But then you have to explain to them the whole story about how the East Germans, took pills and got bigger and stole your medals, and it's just like it's almost a daily thing for me. I mean, even now.
But perhaps the greatest tragedy of the East German drug story is that the athletes themselves were largely unaware of what was going on.
Heidi Krieger of the German Democratic Republic, 21 meters and 10. The throw.
In the mid-1980s, Heidi Krieger was just 16 years old when her coach provided her with some blue pills. He said they were vitamins.
Also Heidi
Well, Heidi Krieger no longer exists. And if you want to put it that bluntly, you could say that, yes, she's been killed off. It's a harsh way of looking at it, but it's also the truth.
After years of torment, Heidi had a full sex change. Heidi, now Andreas, feels that he had no choice in the matter and that the East German sports system made the decision for him.
I'd say they misused me for experiments they wouldn't even do on rats. I literally was their guinea pig, and that's something that eats away at you.
Heidi wasn't alone. The blue pills were given to thousands of young East German athletes. Ute Krause was just 12 years old when she first encountered the so-called vitamins.
It started early, actually in my first year at sports school. That autumn we started to receive pills. And as my mother later told me, they had a parent-teacher conference where they told the parents, winter is coming, so we'll give your kids some vitamin pills. Don't be surprised. So we actually got weaned on pills from year one.
Ute, who had been selected for her swimming potential, found that the vitamins had a dramatic effect on her 12-year-old body.
That year, in the course of 3 or 4 months, I actually gained about 30 pounds, and I couldn't really understand why. This different body made swimming very difficult for me. But what baffled me the most was that with a body that felt so alien, I was actually achieving my fastest times ever.
Andreas and Ute are more aware than most of the legacy of drugs in sport. They're just 2 of some 10,000 athletes who were systematically doped in East Germany over a 30-year period.
Fortunately, that whole system is gone and people are getting their lives back together, most of them. The sport machinery and scientists are, I hear, spread all over the world, including in the U.S. and China and maybe other places. Perhaps they're still doing the same thing. Who knows?
But drugs in sport were never an exclusively East German phenomenon. And they haven't disappeared with the Iron Curtain.
And the world record is gone again. The problem is that as you get higher and higher on the pyramid of the Olympics, the stakes get higher, the money gets higher, and the rewards get higher, and so the drugs creep in.
Today, drugs in sport is a battlefield, an increasingly high-tech arms race where illegal smart drugs are designed specifically to avoid detection.
I wasn't much faster, I was actually more consistent. I was always able to run fast times, always.
And here comes White in the middle, and White's going to take it. Edwards gets the silver. Oh, Kelly White.
In 2003, Kelly White's injury-prone career was a distant memory, as cleverly designed, undetectable steroids helped her to gold in the World Athletics Championships.
I knew it was illegal. That's one thing I knew. But I was tested 17 times in 2003, and after so many tests, I didn't think that they would catch it.
But then a sample of the supplement Kelly was taking was anonymously sent to the Olympic drugs testing labs.
When we started analyzing these unknown solutions, we started getting a little bit of data. And by looking at it, we were able to make a guess, have a hypothesis very quickly for what the molecule must be.
What they discovered turned out to be a cleverly disguised form of a known banned steroid. The good science of detection had won one more battle in the war against the drugs cheats. Kelly White's 17 previously clean tests were re-examined. She was banned for 2 years and stripped of her gold medals. The sad truth is that 30 years after Montreal, drugs are going to be a real issue for the young athletes hoping for success in London 2012.
I know for a fact that you can win world and Olympic medals clean in cycling. But how do we actually compete with it? How do we get these young lads coming through, and how do we encourage them to compete against drugs? And it goes back to this idea that we take this full-on approach, so we look at every single opportunity to get a performance gain in every area possible in cycling. So it's not a completely level playing field maybe, but we can certainly address the balance, and that's what we do. That's how we compete, and we win.
As never before, science will have a huge part to play in the London Olympics. Not only will the drugs battle continue, but as the limits of human performance are reached, sports science will be crucial in achieving Britain's medal ambitions for 2012.
In order to do that, we have to look at every single stage of performance, and that comes down to training recovery. It comes down to areas like nutrition, psychology, the biomechanics of performance, so that we can actually come from 10th place to gold medal. That has a price to pay, both in terms of physically, psychologically, and socially. But what we do know is that without making those sacrifices, gold medals will not come.
Other than sports science, a crucial factor in producing Olympians is time. And so far, not even science can alter the inescapable fact that the London Games are just 6 years away.
We're about halfway through the process that others have been through, which I think, generally speaking, are thought to take around about 20 years. So the challenge is really, can we accelerate a 10-year process down to 6.5? And I, for one, are absolutely convinced that we can.
There's a network there, there's an infrastructure there, and they know what they need to do. Whereas we had to start from scratch, in a sense. To do that 12 years' work was starting from nothing. Whereas I think in the UK, you've got a sense of what you do and how you do it. And you can build on that in 6 years. And to be fair, I mean, Britain's getting results already. You know, I think it's, you know, I think they can be quite optimistic. I think they'll get there.
I think anybody that wants to be at the Olympic Games in 2012 and to potentially be a medalist and obviously to be ultimately be a gold medalist, really by now that should be their life. And it's a big price to pay, but if you really want it, then they're going to sacrifice whatever to achieve.
It's a big day for 11-year-old diving sensation Thomas Daly. The national championships are the only thing that stand between him and the aspirations of his entire family.
In this competition today, he's got to achieve a certain qualification score. Then he gets nominated for consideration for selection in the Commonwealth Games team.
I would love Tom to go to the Commonwealth Games, just for the chance for myself to go to Australia as well, really, and watch him.
But today, all the hard work and effort that we both put in over the months, taking him training every night, we're hoping it's going to pay off today.
In third place, representing Plymouth Diving, Thomas Daly, 399.05.
Thomas comes third, but it's enough. At just 11 years old, he's too young to compete, but he's the youngest person ever to qualify for the English Commonwealth Games diving team. For the moment then, at least part of the promised medal explosion for Britain in 2012 seems safe.
He's done it for me. He's done it. Can you believe that? He's done it for me. Well done, mate.